Hi, I'm Ari Melber. Welcome back to our special coverage. 6 states voting in primaries today, a race that's already upended so many predictions from political insiders because those kind of predictions tend to be pretty worthless. Nights like tonight are up to voters, up to you. Now, do you remember where you were just 10 days ago when this whole race completely changed after Jim Clyburn endorsed Joe Biden and he roared back to win South Carolina and revive his campaign?
We are blessed with a candidate who understand what it is to restore the goodness that exists in this great country.
My buddy Jim Clyburn, you brought me back.
You brought me back indeed. South Carolina voters, and specifically black voters, revived Joe Biden, and his campaign is hoping for more support from voters in Mississippi today. The polls closing there in just over 1 hour. Now, according to our first round NBC exit polls, black voters make up roughly 2/3 of those voting there in Mississippi. That's higher than the share black voters say in South Carolina, which we just mentioned, as well as Alabama and Virginia. And this state has many challenges. I want to mention a few tonight. According to U.S. News and World Report, the median resident earns under $500 a week. The state ranks 48th for economy and among all American states, last, 50th for health care. We are joined now by Maya Wiley, a former counsel to the mayor of New York, who is also a candidate this cycle, Bill de Blasio, and the New Yorker's Jelani Cobb. 10 days ago, hard to believe, everyone's busy, Jim Clyburn and South Carolina changed everything for Joe Biden. How does that relate tonight when we have numbers where African-American voters in the South have gone Biden over Sanders 65% to 16?
Sure. And you know, if you looked at it, you know, Bernie didn't fare well in Mississippi last go-round in 2016, didn't fare well with black voters in the South. And so while he's made inroads with black voters, he's not made them in the South. And there's another point, there's something that Garrett said at the very top of the hour that I think is significant. He pointed out that there was a simple ballot in Michigan. He said there's a simple ballot and, you know, not like what we saw in Texas. That means people will get in and get out. Like, you won't have long lines. And so when you're talking about turnout, you know, when you look at Michigan, if there's any kind of question about it being close, it turns into a turnout game, that's going to be a factor there as well. And the final thing I'll say about this is that when you saw, you know, the rally that was canceled in Mississippi and, you know, the decision to go to Michigan instead, that was really triage. You know, you're not playing an away game if you don't have to. And he's kind of going to like the working class idea, you know, Michigan, that, you know, there's a stronghold of his voters there, countered by the fact that Joe Biden, every time you turn around, is going to remind them of what the Obama administration did for GM. And so that is, you know, really a kind of, it points to just how difficult a position Bernie Sanders' campaign is in right now.
Maya, it's a whole different race when everybody gets involved.
It's a whole different race when everybody gets involved, and it's a turnout race. I mean, This is really fundamental. I think is the most important metric is the fact that there is not just who people are voting for, but that people are really coming out in record numbers to vote, which the reason that's important is because it matters for the general election. So it's both it's, you know, if you think about what happened in Michigan in 2016, which was Hillary Clinton losing it in the general election, we didn't see that kind of turnout in Detroit. We didn't see that kind of turnout from the black community. So seeing it in the primary, you know, she lost by 0.23%. You know, it was a very small margin she lost those electoral votes to Trump. So this is about not just who black people are voting for, but that black people are turning out in record numbers, and I think that's something we have to be very excited about.
How essential is it for Democratic Party leaders to be reminded that when you see someone like Joe Biden, who was, as I mentioned, 5th in New Hampshire, no one has ever won the Democratic Party nomination by finishing less behind 2nd in New Hampshire. He was 5th, 10%, but buoyed by this. And we're hearing some Democrats say, look, this is the Obama coalition recoalescing. Too early, I think, to say for the general election. But how important is it for the party to be reminded, oh, right, when the party wins, it's usually on the strength of high black turnout?
It's extremely important. I think Jelani and I spend a lot of time reminding people how important we are.
Daily. Right.
And one of the things that happened in Michigan in 2016 was that folks started raising alarm bells to the Clinton camp about black people turning out in Michigan, and they felt those alarm bells went unanswered. That's not happening right now, in part because Joe Biden, and by the way, black people like Bernie Sanders. I think it's really important to kind of explode this sort of myth of black people don't like Bernie Sanders and it's, irrational. It's like, it's actually they don't not like him. It's that they know who Biden is. He was in the White House not that long ago. They feel that he understands what it is they worry about. And that for black voters counts for a lot.
It's so interesting you mentioned that as we try to keep our eyes on the evidence, because the two national known candidates with the highest favorability among all Democrats out of all of the people who ran this year were Biden and Sanders, and they're the two people remaining. They're actually very well liked, even as now, like any primary, people are forced to choose in between. I want to thank Jelani, who's been with us for more than one segment, and Maya Wiley. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.